So good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, guys, based on the time zones you all are coming from. So my name is Neeraj Kheria. All right, so now let's get started. So in this entire module for artificial intelligence and machine learning, we will be discussing on multiple topics, starting from what exactly is artificial intelligence, what exactly it is and why it is important, what are the different applications of artificial intelligence, the different domains of AI, step by step. And at the end, I'll be just showcasing you a small example of how to implement or how to build one chatbot system using the AWS service, using the Lex. We have a service called as Lex for the chatbot system creation on top of AWS platform. So that is something that we will be looking at towards the end. All right, so now let's get started, guys. So in here, first of all, let's understand what exactly is artificial intelligence. Now, in simple layman terms, if we have to understand, AI, it's simply a technique that enables the machine to mimic any human behavior. But again, before we can make any system autonomous, we have to make sure that we are training the system on how to operate, how to exactly to work around, right? And this entire word for artificial intelligence was coined by John McCarthy in 1956. In 1956 here. And in terms of now, first of all, before we can implement the AI in any system, we have to make sure that we are training the system with enough amount of data, with enough amount of data, then only we can simply make the entire system more advanced. So if we take a look at this was one of the initial computers, right? But more and more impactful training that now the system has been replaced with our modern based devices and systems step by step, right? And if we take a look at the components of AI and ML versus AI versus ML versus DL, so these are not separate entities. The artificial intelligence, machine learning, and deep learning, these all modules, they work together in making sure the entire system is autonomous. The entire system is autonomous. And as you can see, machine learning and deep learning, they are subsets of artificial intelligence. So machine learning is exactly itself on its own is a subset of AI, is a subset of AI through which we train the system. Okay, how something has to be treated, how something has to be treated, that exactly is something that gets trained by the help of AI system. So now to understand this entire concept for AI ML in simple layman terms, let's consider this use case. For example, when we are training any kid, we are training the kid on mathematics, on simple addition. We train the kid, okay, what is 2 plus 2? It is 4. What is 5 plus 6? It is 11. What is 11 plus 17? It is 28. What is 28 plus 13? It is 53. This is 43, so, but again 42. But again, as soon as but again, if the kid goes to the exam, if the kid goes to the exam, and now if the kid receives gets a question, okay, what is 101 plus 17? Now we trained the kid on two-digit additions, right? But we haven't trained the kid on three-digit addition. But based on the logic, on how we have trained the kid now can apply its own logic to solve this complicated problem, and that exactly is what AI and ML system is. So when we train the kid with our own data problems, for example, we had discussed if we are training the kid on 10 different problem statements, right? So how we are training the kid, that is a part of machine learning, right? So if we are training the kid, okay, on how things work, on what is 2 plus 2, what is 5 plus 5, what is 7 plus 9, what is 11 plus 21. So if we are training the kid, first of all, so that now once the kid understands how the entire addition works in single digit, in double digit, now if the kid receives the more complicated problem consisting of three digits, now based on this understanding, based on how well we have trained them as a part of machine learning, now the kid can try to solve this entire more complicated issue, right? Suppose now if the kid receives some other problem statements, now the kid can try solving it. And that exactly is what AI and ML is in simple layman terms. So first of all, we have to train the system. We have to train the system using tons of data, using petabytes of data of how things work. For example, you may have seen in Google Photos. Now, when we take out any photo, if we have been using Google Photos, now whenever we are taking any photos from our phone's camera, now whenever we take a photo, then if we open that photo, if we open up Google Photos and we simply ask, okay, hey Google, show me photos of beaches, show me photos of flowers, show me photos of Manhattan, show me photos of any particular building, right? Of any particular person. Now we don't, while taking the photos, we don't tell Google, okay, that this is photo for a beach, or this is a photo for a flower, or this is my cat's photo, this is my dog's photo. Google automatically sorts them out, right? Why? Because Google's algorithm has already been trained by hundreds and thousands of images, and it automatically knows based on, now once the image is uploaded to Google Photos, it simply scans the entire image. It scans the entire image and it understands what kind of objects are in this image, right? And based on its entire algorithm, now it can segregate, okay, what kind of image it is, if they are people, if they are animals, if they are objects, and what kind of objects, which people are there. They can easily segregate on its own as a small or as a small application for AI and ML into their systems. So in simple layman terms, first of all, we have to train the system with petabytes of data, and then we can make the entire system autonomous. And the entire efficiency of the system depends upon how much of data we have trained them on. For example, if we are sitting for a maths exam, and if we only solve 10 questions and go and just sit for the exams, now the possibility of us acing the exam will be really less, correct? The possibility of us acing that exam will be really less because we have practiced only on 10 questions. But if we had practice on 1,000 questions and then we sit on the exam, we will be more confident and our success rate is going to be much more higher than solving those 10 questions. Why? Because we have practiced on a good amount of data. And that exactly defines the how much accurate the data is, and how accurate and how precisely our algorithm works in terms of our intelligence work. That's how the entire applications are judged on the basis of their efficiency, right? And that's why deep learning is again a subset of machine learning itself, right? So basically, let's say when we are reaching a decision point, when we have to choose between these two pointers, then for solving that kind of complicated issues, that's where we talk about machine learning, or that's why we talk about deep learning, going down forward step by step. Next is we have importance of AI. When we know that AI is important in almost every aspect, every life, in every problem statement that we can think of, and that's why it is most widely used in almost every vertical that we can think of, be it in banking, insurance, healthcare, pharmaceutical, aviation, power sector, every sector that we can think of, they are all implementing the components of AI and ML, right? And that's why again, even in terms of now it involves different components even in education, ranging from math, sociology, philosophy. So they're almost every vertical that we can think of, they are using the automation purposes, right? Because again, because of the implementation of AI itself, we can simply remove the entire job of repetitive learning. And then, for example, if the system is well aware of the fact, okay, what is 2 plus 2, 4, what is 5 plus 5, what is 7 plus 6, it already knows the entire concept for one digit addition, then there is no point in teaching this entire system on thousands of data sets for the same problem statement, right? So just to avoid that kind of repetitive learning, then again, it simply helps us in improving the accuracy of the entire learning as well, because we have to make sure the entire system is as accurate as possible. And we can make the entire system adaptive, because based on the coming of the incoming data set, it can adjust itself. It can simply make changes to its entire algorithm to behave accordingly, right? And that's why we can analyze more and deeper data using the neural networks that we will be discussing step by step as a part of our entire certification training here. Next is we have types of AI. So if we talk about the entire types of AI, then here we have multiple types. First of all, we have for one task, then we have, or we can refer as narrow AI, and then we have broad AI. So narrow AI is when we are focusing on a single task. For example, we have voice-based system. They only have a single task of responding back to the customers based on the input, based on the voice input. There is nothing else, right? But when we talk about broad AI, then there are multiple data pointers that may be coming in and they have to process everything. For example, we talk about autonomous driving. Now, for these cars, they have to take care of multiple data pointers. They have to take care of the input coming in from the cameras. They have to take care of the input they receive from the motors of the vehicle itself. They have to work on the input received from the brakes. They have to work on the input of the wind speed as well. They have to work on the input from different. There are multiple data setters that they are working on a regular basis, right? And that's why there are multiple sources of data coming in. Same way our human brain. So there may be multiple data pointers coming in terms of vision, smell, in terms of the entire input given using different sources. So if we have different sources of data coming in, then that is termed as broad AI. If we have only a single input and a single output, then that can be a part of narrow AI. And then we have applications of AI. So in terms of applications of AI, we know that AI, again, in terms of applications here, they are basically used in almost every vertical that we can think of, right? Like we have for Deep Blue, we have AI for rescue, again, based in multiple verticals that we have think of. For example, suppose we have for wildlife, we have for AI in agriculture. So now some of you may be wondering, okay, how wildlife prevention is done using automation. Deep Blue is a system developed by IBM. So basically, it is used for playing chess. And to be honest, it is so good that it has continuously been beating the world champions by a good margin, and that too in the record time. All right. And satellite-based images, we can take the help of multiple components, right? To start our different components one by one. And same way in AI and agriculture, like we do take the help of multiple satellite imagery, and then based on our own AI algorithm, we can define the patterns, we can define the soil health, we can define the crop health, and we can use it for crop insurance as well, for keeping a check on the exact amount being insured. And again, it has been granted to the farmers to help them retain their to retain the health of the entire crop, and that too in the best possible amount. And that will be learning on step by step as we proceed further with our course. Now we have the entire same way here. It has multiple use cases in surgeries. Here we'll be having multiple use cases for surgery, for wildlife preservation, and so on. That will be learning on how they are being implemented, what are the available solutions, and how to implement those step by step. And in terms of domains of AI, we have different domains available. Like we have NLP. NLP, in simple layman terms, it's simply used for increasing the efficiency of the accuracy of the entire systems. For example, let's say if we know that in English we have the same word which means different things when said in different contexts. For example, let's say when we talk about crawfish, and crawfish, when used separately, it means something else, right? Whereas when we use cow fishing in a sentence or in any other context, it means something else, right? So that means the entire system has to understand in which context the command is being given, so that the accuracy of the entire results can be improvised. And that exactly is what is achieved by using NLP, and NLP refers to natural language processing. So it involves the implementation of computer science, human language, and artificial intelligence, and that exactly gives the birth of NLP. In making sure that we have the most accurate result being generated from that particular study that we have done on using NLP itself, right? And NLP, as you know, has multiple components that we have: neural networks, expert systems, robotics, and fuzzy logic. And these all are different components of AI that you'll be learning on step by step. Like neural networks, they also simply mimic our human brain. So our brain is made of billions of neurons, right? So our brain cells are made of multiple billions of neurons. Now they simply map the entire thing, so they simply reduce it, and that's how they simply process the entire different things. And same way here we simply mimic the entire structure for human brain in making sure that we are improving the accuracy of the entire artificially intelligence bot here, right? And then we have to make use of robotics. So robotics is basically the integration of hardware and the software part altogether. And then we have fuzzy logic as in the part of implementation and development of multiple algorithms through which we can define more accurate systems. And now if we talk about the entire job profiles available in AI, then when we are done with the certification in AI, then we are being offered jobs such as ML engineers. We are offered a job as data scientist, as business intelligence developer, called as BI developer, Then we have AI engineers, then we can work as big data engineers or architects. Depending upon in which use case, in which particular area we are more interested in, and in which vertical we are more interested in, just like we have the expertise for big data. So big data side, we have the experience, we have the expertise in big data. For example, we have big data engineers for healthcare, for banking, for retail, for pharmaceuticals. The same way we can pick our own expertise. That means in which area we want to be, we want to develop our expertise and we can choose accordingly. And then, for example, here we are talking about object detection. Now, here we have a simple use case for detection of objects, right? So now when we talk about any object detection, now here we'll be using a simple library available in Python, like we have TensorFlow, like we have TensorFlow. So TensorFlow is one of the most popular libraries available in Python, which are basically used for detecting object. For example, in the given entire image, we have to detect, okay, which one is an object, which one is a lamp, or which one is a human, right? So for doing these components here, for doing this kind of analysis, we can take the help of TensorFlow, which is one of the most popular library available for artificial intelligence, here. And same way we found tools to study any kind of patterns, right? So because here we can use TensorFlow, TensorBoard, we have the on top of Python, then we have Matplotlib, then we have Cocoa APIs, we have Protobuf as well. All right. So now Amazon Lex is now AWS, as you know, is the world's leader in top of the cloud computing platform, followed by Azure and GCP. And just like every other service offered by all the other cloud computing vendors, we also have a simple chatbot system available from AWS by the name of Amazon Lex. So Lex is basically used for development of that or those chatbot systems available in here. And again, if you want to see the list of all the AI-based services, let me showcase you what kind of AI-based services are available in AWS. So you can simply log in by this link here called aws.amazon.com. All right, so now in here we can see the entire list of all the AI-based solutions. So now, for example, here, if you want to see what kind of solutions are being offered for blockchain, we can say that here we have AWS Managed Blockchain itself, and along with Quantum Ledger database. If we are looking to develop on top of machine learning as well, right? We do have the support for machine learning, where we have the components like we have augmented AI, we have Amazon Comprehend, we have SageMaker, which is one of the most popular used. We have Transcribe, we have Textract, we have Amazon Poly. So we have different piece of information available directly from AWS. Now, let's go ahead and see the implementation of Lex. So we can open up Lex. So using Lex, we can create a small chatbot based system. So now here we have to click on get started, and in here we have multiple templates that we can choose from. So if we are looking to create a chatbot for a travel based website, and any flower based website that we want to develop, that we want to deliver flowers. And if we are booking a chatbot for an appointment-based system, for example, we have any doctor's clinic, we may have some kind of service-based websites for which we want to create the appointments, right? So here for different use cases, we can use these kind of predefined templates that we can customize, or we can go ahead and use our own custom bot that we can start creating from scratch, right? So for example, let's say we start creating from scratch here, we can define the bot name. For example, let's say we want to create a bot for planning a holiday, right? For example, book a trip. So here we can create a bot by the name of book a trip, and then we can define the language, and then we can choose the output voice. For example, here we have multiple voice, right? Just like we have the voice-based assistant, so we can choose the voice and the accent in which we want the entire bot to be developed. For example, we are looking for a male voice, we are looking for a female, and that too for any specific with any specific accent that we can choose. So these are the ones available by default in AWS. And then here we can here we can type to see a sample of the voice in our own statement. Then we can simply type in. We can type in as hi, welcome to Amazon legs. So if we can simply click on play. So here we can see the entire sentence repeated in the same voice. I'm sure you may not be able to hear that, but so here we can see the entire preview of this entire output, right? And in here we can find the session timeout. For example, if we want this now for every particular session that you may have seen that even in the entire voice-based system, we do have a predefined session time, right? That means after that expires, the users, they need to restart the entire chat, correct? So here we can find for how long we want one session to be retained, and then we can choose the sentiment analysis. That means if you want this bot to take care of the entire to take the content of the sentiment into consideration while processing the request, then we can keep the sentiment analysis on that, for which we have to improvise the entire, we have to define the logic in which we want to process the sentiments that we are going to look at step by step. And then we can define, now here we can keep the role and COP exactly as it is. For now, we'll be discussing these parts step by step. And then once we are done, we can simply click on create. So once we sign up on AWS for the first time, here there are multiple services, and here we can get the entire detail of what kind of services are available for free from AWS. Now, once we have the bot created, now what we can do is we can simply create the intent first. Intent as in what exactly we are going to ask the user. For example, here we want to create the intent as book tickets. For example, our intent is to create an automated response for booking the tickets. So here we can choose book tickets, and then we can choose, and then here we have to define the logic, or we can say what kind of command the user will be asking for. For example, if we here we can define, now here based on our analysis, we know that users will be asking to book a flight. So here we can simply type a statement as I would like to book a flight, which in current scenario no one is booking. So hope it gets resolved as soon as possible. So I would like to book a flight. So here we can define the location. For example, let's say we are now being the website owner, we are giving the options for our customers to fly from 10 different cities. Then here we have to add those different type of slots here. For example, if we want to allow the users, so for example, here we want to allow the users to go for NYC, for example, New York. And then we can define the slot type, whether this entire piece of information is what? It's a city name, right? So that it can be processed like a city. So currently, as this Alexa is available only in selective regions, not in all regions. So here, this is now here we can choose. This is what? A British city or any Europe city, so that it can process it accordingly. So this is a US city, right? And then we can define prompt. That means if the user type in this command here, then what kind of question this bot have to ask. So that suppose if the bot asks which city. So once the user user sees this question, now whatever they reply, for example, they reply with New York, they reply with Washington, they reply with LA, right? So that particular response will be saved in Amazon US city itself, right? So for example, now here instead of city here, we are simply defining for city, right? That means here we are asking the user for city, and whatever city name they give, and that will be recorded as a part of city itself, as a part of the column such as city, right? So here we can define suppose as city or location. Now whatever response they add will be added as a part of US city, correct? Now if we want to ask user more questions, for example, let's say we want to ask them for time, or suppose let's say we want to ask the user for day. Now here we can here we can choose. Let's suppose here we are asking the users for date or day of the week. Here we are asking the user for date. For example, let's say we ask the user for not for day but for date. Now here we can ask the user, okay, which date? And then suppose once they enter date here, now we can ask them for time. We can ask them for time as well. We can ask them for time. Okay, we can ask them for how many passengers they want. We want this to be shared here. So here we can define for time as well, or we can define number of passengers. For example, here we can add as passengers. Suppose here we can ask, okay, how many passengers they are looking for. Suppose here we can define the people count. Here we can define the people count. For For example, here we want to process this as number itself, right? So here we can define how many seats, how many seats we can. So now what we are doing here, we are simply defining the entire pattern in which the entire questions will be asked. So now here we can make it mandatory. That means even though people do not enter the passenger details, still these two questions are mandatory because these two have to be asked by have to be answered by the users, right? Then only we can go ahead with the booking, right? And then once the user enters their details, now here we can ask them for a confirmation prompt. Suppose when they enter this, now we can simply ask them for a confirmation. Okay, are you sure you want to book a flight to, suppose, New York? Then a simple prompt can be asked as well. Or if you do not want to go ahead and ask for this confirmation, we can keep it for blank for now, for keeping it simple and easy. Now, once we define the entire intent here, now in order to build it, we can simply click on build. That means this will simply create the build that we can test on whatever intent that we had defined here. So this may take a bit, just a moment. I think we missed out on the response here, just a moment. So here we can define small utterances here because since we are doing for the live production here. And once we have defined that, once we define the entire message as well, we can simply click on build again, and this will be build. So as you can see here, book a trip build was successful. And now if we want to test it out, we can simply, now here we can see in the right section, we have a simple build being created, right? So now we can start testing it. For example, let's say, even though if we do not type the entire sentence, okay, I would like to book a flight. For example, if we type in as book a flight, it will automatically ask us which city. For example, let's say we type in as NYC, which date. Let's suppose we want to book it for 1st June. As you can see currently, if in case they have some errors here, then that will be simply showcasing an error as well. As you can see currently, we have defined this for error, correct? And for passengers, we have kept the passengers as null, right? That means again, if we want, we can simply define, okay, where if we want to make things mandatory or not, we can simply define that. Or suppose it not currently, if we want to clear this out, even if we want to speak it up, for example, book a flight. As you can see here, currently we have given the command using the audio part here, correct? Let me showcase you that again. I would like to book a flight. As you can see here, it automatically detected our voice. Which city? New York. As you can see here, currently it is simply interpreting our entire voice-based system as well on the basis of the intent that we had defined here. So that's how we can create the entire chatbot system, guys, and we will be resuming from the same point onwards. And how to deploy this, again, we can simply click on deploy, publish, and here we can find the areas here, and now we can get it published, which is again a part of the paid service. So let's say we wrap it up for today. Thank you so much for joining, guys, and have a great day ahead. Take care. Bye-bye.